flow, though that law is the Disaster Management Act, and it has a very limited or a very confined purpose. And the limited purpose is to ensure livelihood security and to ensure that the humanitarian crisis does not precipitate, which means that, if during this time even the employees, especially the casual worker and the contract labor, if they face any difficulty, then it would have just deepened the crisis. So anyway, so lockdown is different, and once the lockdown is lifted or the restrictions are eased, and we've seen that lockdown started, it started with 3 weeks, then it got extended, by another 18 days, and then extended again until the 17th of May, which is for another 14 days. So if you look at the post lockdown scenario, okay, what will be the post lockdown scenario? And this is something that Anand ji is here, and he's the man of the, he will be the man of the moment, or he would have been the man of the moment, given his role as an HR, senior HR functionary in his organization. But the point is that after lockdown, you know, from a strictly legalistically speaking, what will be the rights of the employers? I will come to the obligations under the MHA orders later, but let me start by the three main questions that come to us. So the first question that is often asked is that, okay, after lockdown, will I have the right to downsize? Which means that will I have the right to terminate my employees, retrench my employees? The answer there is yes. And okay, let me also make a caveat or an assumption that this is subject to the government withdrawing the March 29 MHA directive, which is the kind of a thorn in a way. So the downsizing will be possible. This is my understanding. The downsizing, you will have the right to retrench your workmen and terminate your employees after the lockdown, and that will be as per applicable laws. I will just quickly summarize as to what is the legal position there. It is very simple. Indian law makes a distinction between two categories of employees. Most of you would know. It's the workmen and the non-workmen. Workmen are the ones that have the protection of law, which means that you can retrench them, but their retrenchment accords them the protection of law, and there needs to be certain mandatory compliances that need to be undertaken with respect to retrenchment of workmen. Okay, so the right of workmen, insofar as receiving the retrenchment compensation is concerned, and all the other contractual benefits is concerned, that is there, but you need to notify the labor authorities. And in certain cases, if the number of your workmen that are employed in your establishment exceed a particular number, you may need to get the prior approval of the relevant state governments before implementing any retrenchment. So that is for workmen. Non-workmen, which is your managers and your staff, which does not qualify as workmen, often the white collared professionals, they don't have any right other than what their contract gives them. So which means that as per the terms of their contract, you can easily terminate them, and you can you just need to give them the relevant notice as per the contracts, and which is usually 1 month. If a person is senior, then it may vary from 3 to 6 months, but mandatory requirement in most states is 1 month. So downsizing is possible. The second and the most important bit is that whether after lockdown the employers will have the ability to reduce the wages of their employees. And the answer there is yes. You will be able to reduce wages, but that will also be in accordance with applicable laws. And when I say that, what does it mean? that if there is a workman, then you will need to give them 21-day notice as required under the Industrial Disputes Act. And if it is a non-workman, then the reduction of wages will happen in accordance with their employment contracts. Okay. The what else can the employer do? The employer will also have the right to defer or suspend increments and bonuses. Okay. Now, always remember that in India, increment is not a statutory right, which means by the law does not confer a right of or an entitlement of increment upon employees. However, if the employer has agreed to agree to an increment, and such an agreement is in writing, they may need to give a notice in writing to withdraw that. Similarly, bonuses also, there are two kinds of bonuses: the bonuses that are payable under the Payment of Bonus Act, and the other bonuses which are like contractual bonuses. So contractual bonuses you can withdraw, you can suspend, you can defer. You have the ability and the flexibility to structure it. With respect to non-contractual, which is the statutory bonus in the form of Payment of Bonus Act, wriggling out of it may be difficult. Okay, but again, that is linked to profits. So if you have made profit in the previous year, you may be liable to pay. But the eligibility criteria of the employees that qualify for mandatory bonus is very limited. Coming to the first point, which is obligations under MHA orders, and this is something very interesting. And when we are discussing the points on the employee compensation, the employee compensation related aspects, and the insurance cover that people should consider, we will discuss this in detail. But what has happened, interestingly, is that if you look at all the MHA orders and the MHA directives, which have announced the gradual opening up of various sectors, mainly non-essential commodities and non-essential services, the employers have been saddled with a great responsibility, and that responsibility includes the well-being of the employee. And when I say well-being has been used in a very broad sense, but there are certain standard operating procedures that have been issued by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, and all the public and private establishments are required to implement those standard operating procedures while the lockdown gets lifted in those particular sectors or segments. Now, interestingly, the obligation or the liability or the principal duty to implement these SOPs in workplaces has been left on the employer. Now, we've been getting very frantic calls from the client saying, "Acha, what will be my liability? Does the violation of this still carry criminal liability?" So on and so forth. Now, there have been very interesting parts of this. Like, for example, one of the 15th April notifications said that the employers, the workers must be provided with mandatory insurance cover. I mean, mandatory medical cover. Now, it is not clear whether the medical cover is only until the period of lockdown or whether it is beyond the lockdown. Given that the insurance regulator, which is the IRDAI, they also weighed in on this notification, and they appealed to their stakeholders. Sorry, they directed. I mean, the regulator never appeals. My bad. So IRDA directed all the stakeholders, which includes insurance brokers and insurers, to find a way to to ensure that the employers are able to provide medical cover for all their insurance for all their workers. Now, things like these. So the manner in which these orders have been reading, the intent of the lawmakers, the intent of the government seems that they will they will make the employers responsible for the implementation of the SOP, and will also, the onus will be on the employers to ensure that everything is followed in letter and spirit. Now, it has caused many it's caused a lot of flutter within the employer community, but it remains to be seen how it is actually enforced. Coming to other issues, now it's an interesting era. As I pointed out in my previous slide, that working from home is something which is very new to India. In several other jurisdictions, working from home is a norm, and there have been a detailed regulatory and a legal framework around it. In India, there is none. But given that more people will be working from home will become a norm. We've been reading as to like a leading IT services company in India has said that they are going to make it mandatory for more than 70% of their workforce to work from home in days to come. So when work from home becomes the new reality, there are other legal issues that would also arise, and the first and the foremost is the issue of cybersecurity and cyber data breaches. Now, from an employer's perspective, you will require suitable technological interventions to ensure that your systems are robust, and there is no cyber or a data breach. So, like, not only in terms of any external unsupervised third parties trying to make an attempt to either introduce a virus or virus of a different kind, not COVID, but this is a different virus. So they're trying to breach into your systems and so on. So it is very important to maintain the integrity of your information networks, your cyber networks, and therefore it will require proper technological interventions. Similarly, confidentiality and data protection, it relates to cybersecurity and data breach. We all know that there is in some organization there would be that one rogue employee who would want to download confidential information, or may want to breach the obligations of the employer with respect to data protection. So it is very important that when you're allowing your workforce to work from home, that you have contractually protected yourself so that the employees know that what are their obligations with respect to confidentiality, data protection, etc. And you also make technological interventions to ensure that there is no unauthorized access, there are no unauthorized downloads, and the sanctity of your entire confidential data, your trade secrets, your IP sensitive stuff is maintained. Okay? Many of you would be working in IP sensitive areas, and you would definitely need to take care of this. Last but not the least, one of the major concerns for several HR managers is how to manage, or how to assess and track productivity and performance of employees who are working from home. Now, there are companies that are devising methods. They are implementing software. They are introducing other tools through which they can monitor the performance and the productivity of their resources who are working from home. Okay. So just to quickly wrap up, and I'm sure we have questions to address, and we'll be dealing with several questions, but there are a couple of points that I would want to make, and then we can move on. So what can you do as an employer? Okay, the legal answer is short and sweet. Short, though not sweet. that you need to comply with the directions and advisories of the central and the state governments, which means that during the period of lockdown, you cannot terminate anyone. During the period of lockdown, you cannot deduct wages, and you can't force your employees to go on mandatory leaves. Okay, but as we say that in India, law is one side of the story, and the practice of law, or the harsh truth or the harsh reality on the ground, is the different side of the story. So, if at all, you fall in the category where you have no cash flow, no money to pay, and you would not want to dip into your reserves for whatever reasons, you need to assess your risks in cases of non-compliance. And when I say you need to assess your risks, which means that you need to know what are the liabilities, and as I pointed out in the beginning, the liability for breach of directives under Disaster Management Act, it's a criminal liability, although it's a bailable offense, but it's a cognizable offense. So you need to be ready to face the music if, in case you have, you have a situation where you have terminated an employee or withheld wages, and the employee, in order to create a nuisance values, goes and registers an FIR, then you may have to face the music. I mean, practically, we don't know whether all police stations or all states would enforce this with that rigor, but you need to weigh your chances. I mean, it would depend upon your risk appetite as to what solution you would want to take. Finally, the most important bit from an employer's perspective is to engage with employees. We've known of establishments which have uh, you know uh, been able to have a very deeper connect and deeper engagement with the employees, and have been able to work out solutions even during the period of lockdown. You'll be happy to know that in these cases the employees and employers have come together, and either the employees have voluntarily offered a deduction, or sorry, a reduction of pay, or some of them have taken sabbatical, some of them have taken deferment of pay, and so on. So there are ways to approach this, but you should always do this with the complete awareness of what is the liability. In this case, there's a criminal liability, and what are the different options. Uh, Finally, questions, but before I end, there is one aspect in which when we'll be discussing this with Chaitanya, he may be able to highlight this, and that relates to the employee compensation policy. Now, given that the Ministry of Home Affairs has the Ministry of Home Affairs has made it so very difficult for the employers who are allowing their employees to come back to work, and who are gradually limping back to normalcy, is the fact that the employer's liability has suddenly increased. And in light of the increase in the liability of the employees, it will be very important to see as to whether and how uh, you know you're able to mitigate your risks through other mechanisms like your employee compensation policy. So if you have coverage, whether you have coverage, whether you need to get in touch with your broker to ensure that you are covered in case of any liability. At the moment, it is not completely clear whether an employee who contracts the infection, whether that would be covered under the occupational diseases as as provided, as notified, or as defined under the Employee Compensation Act of 1923, and whether correspondingly, whether there will be an insurance cover for this. But this is the time to maybe perhaps engage with your consultants or brokers to see as to whether there are any options or not. And there again, I'll request Chaitanya to throw some more light. But over to you, Aruna and Anand, to take this forward.
Great, Satyan. So we have a lot of questions actually, and very meaningful questions have come. But I would ask Anand and Chaitanya. They are making the notes of this question. So over to you, Anand. You want to ask any questions from the list?
Hello, am I audible?
Hello.
Yes,
Yes,
very
you're
much,
audible.
Anand.
Please go.
Yes,
Yeah,
Anand.
thanks. So we have very important questions. Thanks for the session. So the first is, if the companies are running into losses, how will company pay? Where will the company get budget from?
Yeah. So this is not an question. You need to see the legal position is clear that until lockdown you have no option not to pay. Okay, but as I mentioned, and Anand, you will be in perhaps in a better position to give out practical solutions, because I'm sure you would be in your circles you would have dealt with how other HR heads are dealing with this. But the question there is I will like to address it in two parts. The first is legal. Legally, the law does not come to your rescue at all. Sorry to be saying this, but you need to pay. Now, if you don't have money, okay, what would you do? Practically, depending upon your risk appetite, you would look at solutions. So the solutions could be in the form of having an engagement or a dialogue with your employees, getting their trust and confidence, and getting them on your side so that you can work out something. Okay, but again, everything will have to be done in a way that you're not coercing or forcing the employees to do something, but it will have to be voluntarily offered by the employees themselves. Okay. So,
here, these cases where employers have been bankrupt, there have been few airlines which recently met with bankruptcy, or they were not having sufficient fund to pay. So it's a beg, borrow, or steal kind of thing, and you cannot steal, but you can beg or borrow. And then here, the employer can take loans. First of all, employer has to prove that they don't have sufficient funds. And if they don't have sufficient funds, and then their balance sheet speaks, and then they can borrow. If they don't get from the banks, they can definitely work on some methods where pay cuts or deductions or something can happen, but that has to be justified.
right.
We'll move to the other question. Wage is a legal responsibility or moral responsibility?
It's a legal responsibility, hands down. It's not a moral responsibility. You're not doing a favor to anybody. You are by law required to pay your employees.
Yeah. What about travel allowance? Can employers not pay that?
So travel allowance would depend upon. See, travel allowance is it's not a legal right of any employee, and it would depend upon how the travel allowance is actually structured as a part of your remuneration structure, right? So if it is linked to the contingency of travel, and if there is no travel, then obviously you could withhold it. But if it is something that has been given as a part of your regular wage, but just from a nomenclature perspective, it has been set out differently, then you will have to pay it.
Yeah, so there will be few roles where travel will be required. And now during the work from home or lockdown period, there won't be any travel.
Right.
Therefore, employer can withdraw the travel allowance or the conveyance allowance that we have.
Okay.
Employees working from home and giving their scheduled hours, can employer deduct salary?
Sorry, what did you say, that
So
employees working from home?
so if employees are working from home and
Right.
they're giving their scheduled hours, maybe 8 hours or 9 hours, whatever is the scheduled hours,
Hmm.
if they are giving their scheduled hours, can employer deduct salary?
Okay, if that's an interesting question. Now, if the terms of employment are such that they are being paid only on hourly basis, then perhaps there is an argument. But if the employment law, I mean, if the employment agreement is not structured on that basis, then there may be no right to deduct the salary.
Okay. Can an employer deduct leaves such as sick leave or any other leaves, annual leaves or casual leaves?
No. So we covered this in one of the slides. The employee under the MHA directive, at least during the period of lockdown, they don't have that right to deduct any of the, so they can't mandatorily force employees to go on leave, which means that they can't deduct leave for the employees not turning up.
If employee is covered under ESIC, whether medical insurance is required?
Okay, so you see, the answer there is that the view that many of lawyers are taking, that yes, if the employee is covered under ESIC, then there is an argument that that insurance coverage is there for the employee, so there is no need to cover. But you see, in most organizations, there would be a possibility that many employees would be outside the mandatory coverage of ESIC. So for those, there may be a requirement for procuring a medical cover.
So all those who do not fall under ESIC, company has to take the medical insurance.
Right.
Satyan, one of the other questions to emerge out of the webinar was that, some of the organizations in today's day and age and during the lockdown phase itself have initiated pay cuts. So as an employer, what is the safety net that they have? And as an employee, what is the defense angle that the employee has against this?
Sorry, so you are saying that during the period of lockdown, there are many employers who have deducted salaries.
Yes.
Right. So we want to know that what is the risk. So the employers will have to pray to their God of their choice that the employees don't go and file a police complaint.
Correct.
Okay. So there is no mitigation, because it is a fait accompli. It has been done. Now the option there is that if at all there is a police complaint, then you will have to deal with it accordingly. You can, it's a cognizable offense, but a bailable offense. So, you'll have to deal with it.
So someone has asked about famous tools for performance tracking available. So this is a very, subjective question. Would you like to answer, Satyendra?
Sir, you will be in a better position to answer that. I just know that there are softwares that exist, and given that I'm digitally challenged, I would not know their names.
So there are many softwares and HRMS tools available in the market, which you can explore. Every company has different requirement, and HRMS today has been so advanced that it consists of not only performance management tracking system, but right from hiring to retiring activities. You can, I as an HR should not name any HRMS software here on a public platform. So what a company and HR needs to explore 5, 6, 7 or 10 HRMS tools before finalizing, and they should finalize only those which has a capability to scale and be very, very flexible. Will work from home injury be covered under workman's compensation?
Wonderful. So, this is one of the most hotly debated questions in today's day and age in terms of, as far as the workman's compensation insurance is concerned. Basically, there are a couple of ways of dealing with it. One is people talk about accidents, whether it will be treated or considered as an occupational disease. The answer to it is that occupational diseases are basically named under the WC Act in the table C, and they are deemed to affect the employees only over a period of prolonged exposure leading to illness or death. So they are not covered as a part of, the basic cover. So the employers specifically need to buy this cover as an extension to the basic cover, then they will be covered.
Right. Yeah. So
Which notification directs the employers to pay salary and not to terminate?
So it is a March 29th notification from the Ministry of Home Affairs. And it clearly says that you need to pay all the workers. So, and it cannot, no employer can deduct any salary. So we can share it with them.
Post retirement, when will the employer settle the dues?
Sorry, post retirement.
When will the employers settle the dues, the gratuity and the retirement benefits or whatever is there?
Okay, so for gratuity, if I remember correctly, the time is like they need to settle within 2 months of retirement. I think the government may not enforce this very strictly in terms of the time frame because of the lockdown. So perhaps we need to wait and watch.
Yeah, because these are the employees' rights, and the deductions and other things have happened in the past. So definitely the employers create fund or something, some balance in their account. Therefore, this needs to be paid as soon as possible as per the government timelines. So employers should not violate these kinds of retirement benefits. Else it comes, employers has to pay with interest and other, penalty as well.
Yeah. I would like to add one point here, and given that Chaitanya is here, and given that it's a platform of JB Boda, so under the Gratuity Act, there is a mandatory requirement for procuring an insurance cover so that the employer can meet the liability for payment of gratuity. Now, it is very interesting that most employers are not aware of this insurance. So, except for one of the states, and if I remember correctly, it is either Telangana or Andhra Pradesh, where they have made it mandatory for all employers to procure this insurance. Okay. So, if at all, the employers are, and this is going forward, they are, if at all they have already procured that insurance, then that insurance may help them to meet their statutory liability of payment of gratuity to the employees in a timely manner in case there is any fund flow problem or in case there is any liquidity issue.
This is an interesting question. Can a school not pay salaries or deduct leaves of its teachers, giving the plea that parents are not paying during the lockdown?
So I will borrow a phrase from Anand: beg, borrow, steal. The school is also an employer, right? So an employer cannot wish away or cannot look at the other way as far as their own liability as as an employer is concerned.
So there is one, since you shuttle between London and India. So there is one thing. In UK, the government has come up with a scheme to support companies by allowing them furlough employees and subsidizing them. Is there any government compensation in India for companies or employees?
Not that we know of. In India, the employees are a segment. The tax-paying employees are a segment which get least benefits. The people who fall within the certain category of underprivileged position, they get certain benefits. But as a part of the initial stimulus, I think there were certain allowance. There were certain concessions that were announced by the government in the form of withdrawal of PF money and so on. But it is not in the form of, like, in the UK, like under the furlough scheme, the government is actually paying you a salary, which is not the case in India. So there are certain limited benefits, and I think Anand can throw more light on it.
Recently, I mean, a few days back itself, government had announced that due to lockdown scenario, employees can withdraw some part of their salary. Some part of their PF. So that I have seen many employees have withdrawn and they have got credited their some amount of fund from the PF. One.
Right.
Number two, the government had also announced that companies having less than or up to 100 employees, their PF will be paid by the government. So this has to be checked thoroughly, and if it is happening, employers, I mean companies, those who have less than 100 employees, they need to take benefit of this. The other thing, I guess Mr. Chaitanya would be in a better position to help, that today we have some kind of unemployment insurance as well. So if you could throw some light on this, then I guess, and if these kind of unemployment insurance is covered under this, pandemic situations, then I guess we as a professional should take these kinds of insurance.
Basically, Anandji, as far as the unemployment insurance is concerned, it is provided as an extension to a few pandemic policies which are in vogue in the market at this point in time. But the kind of safety net that they provide is not sufficient to the extent required. So basically, it's a very limited and restricted cover as on date, which there are covers available in the market definitely, but not to the extent that we would like it to. They are limited and restricted in the scope and coverage.
Yeah, this would benefit, lower rung employees who have, salaries of minimum wage. So suppose a salaried employee of 15,000 and they take these kinds of insurance, for them some reprieve will be there.
Yes.
So this
Agreed.
one question.
I will just like to, I would just like to make a point here. So, the Confederation of Indian Industries, along with a few insurers, they are working on creating a loss of income, policy, which will be like a mass insurance cover for contract labor. As you Anandji suggested that, it will be for it will give them like a 3-month or a 2-month support during, such natural disasters or catastrophes like pandemic, floods, earthquake, etc. So they will get that loss of income support.
And I guess,
but they are working on it. It's not yet come
and
up.
I guess what I have read through is that government is also working on some MSME benefits kind of thing. I
Right.
guess if this lockdown prolongs to a longer period of time, then government may come up with some MSME packages, and I guess many companies should be benefited with it. But the government should be very generous about it.
Sorry, there's one question,
So
Satyendra.
Aruna, just a minute. Sorry, Aruna, I saw one question and I should have covered that in my presentation, but somebody has mentioned about employers approaching the Supreme Court on this, and it's a very important one. I'll just take 1 minute to answer that with your permission.
Of course. I think
Yeah,
we will
so-
need a
so,
little bit of buffer time because there are very interesting questions and I think we should answer them.
Yeah, sure. So, there have been a bunch of petitions that have been filed in the Supreme Court, led by Nagrika Exports from Maharashtra, and they have been. So all these petitions have challenged this MHA order of March 29. There are several chief ministers of states who have written to the Union, Home Minister, to the Prime Minister, asking the government to look at alternative solutions rather than imposing the directive through MHA under the Disaster Management Act, which obligates the companies to pay wages. Okay, so this has been challenged. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court has not given any interlocutory order, any stay on these petitions. In one petition, the government has asked a 2-week time to respond. So, while there are like 12 to 15 petitions in one such matter, the government is going to respond in about a week's time now. So we will see. But given that it is such a interesting situation, given the larger public sentiment, given the approach of the government, it is unlikely that the Supreme Court, even if there is, even if later it discovers that it was completely illegal or unconstitutional, may immediately grant any reprieve to the employers, because it is they're doing. I mean, this entire move from the government is to avert a larger crisis.
Got it. So this question, why I'm asking you, because this came to me on email also from various people, and it is again coming on the chat because I could not reply back to them on the email. So one of the questioners, like we have seen Indigo and SpiceJet saying that employees will be treated as on leave without pay during this period. Also, some companies have imposed pay cuts on their employees. Now, is this in keeping with the law that we just discussed on today's forum? So the example of SpiceJet and Indigo is very blatantly been taken.
Right. So I will not get into specifics, but I will give you the general position. See what happens. Okay, the government has an objective. Okay, the objective is that we want to prevent the further deepening of the crisis. Okay, now given that objective in mind, they have issued an order. Okay, now for all you know, this order may be completely illegal. Okay, unconstitutional without any basis, right? But the very fact that we are debating this here, which means that most of us, most of law abiding corporate citizens, okay, which includes also companies, they would not want to unnecessarily invite trouble. So they are the ones who are, who said that, okay, given that this is a liability that we have, given that we need to pay, we will pay. Now there are several others who have taken the risk of not paying. There are some people who have blatantly sacked, terminated employees, which is, I mean, we will have all kinds of people and all kind of employees in the world. So that is depending upon their risk appetite. So if today the employer is comfortable with the idea of potentially, facing an FIR or dealing with an FIR through their lawyers, they might as well take this decision, right? But it would ultimately depend upon that particular employer. So now if you don't have money, okay, if you don't have any money, then as Anandji said in the beginning, beg, borrow, steal. I mean, you are telling me. I mean, again, I don't want to take any names, but I'll just take like 1 minute to explain my interaction with the Labour Commissioner. I had an opportunity to speak to a Labour Commissioner on this issue, and I was trying to argue him out of this. So I was trying to present the case of a client, and he told me very clearly. He said that, look, please don't wear the hat of a lawyer for a minute, and think from a rational perspective. That today, and this was just during the second week of lockdown. So the answer that was given to me was very simple. He said that when there is an advisory issued, okay, when there is a directive issued, and if you're trying to convince me that the person does not even have that much money to pay the employees in the first 2 weeks or 3 weeks of this crisis being there, it is a very difficult and an argument for me as a labor authority to buy. And therefore he said that the government is very clear with respect, in relation to this approach, and it will take whatever measures are necessary to check, to look at the violation. Now practically, if every state, every police thana reports an FIR or takes an action against an FIR, it is difficult to say. I mean, having said that, under Disaster Management Act, more than 25,000 FIRs have been lodged in different parts of the country. Okay. Now we don't know whether any or many of them relate to the violation by the employers. But here we are. I hope I have answered the question.
Great. Anand, Chaitanya, you would like to take one?
How to motivate the employees?
Join our webinars. It itself is a motivation. Join JB Buddha's minimalist corporate lifestyle webinars. So we have a lot of motivational speakers coming and giving the lectures. So please make it available to all your colleagues, all your friends, all your seniors who would like to take any insights from us. So like tomorrow we have a webinar on digital wellness. So you should take a motivational understanding in terms of how to take care of your health. The future topics are more HR specific, how to manage talent in time to come. So these are some of the motivational things, and I'll take a cue from our management team, who have been constantly in touch with their employees, either through mails or through calls. So it depends on what kind of a motivation you're looking for. So quickly moving on. Chaitanya, you would like to take any last question, because we should not keep the Janta waiting. They may have some other WebEx to attend or some things to attend. So whatever questions we have not answered on the forum, we are going to take a copy of that, and we are going to make an FAQ and put an answers to it.
I guess we've covered basically all the major questions, Aruna.
Oh, great. Then the one thing that was last question that Satyendra, was that the right for providing a safety environment for work for the employees, whose prerogative it is? It is an employer's prerogative, or you know the question.
Yeah, so under the MHA directives, it is clear that it is the employer's obligation, that employers have to implement the SOPs from the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, and any additional directions on social distancing, etc., that are issued by the union government or by the state governments.
So in
I have
continuation,
one question.
sorry, Anand, just 1 minute. In continuation to the safety work environment, in case something happens and the company completely did not had any BCP plan in place or any SOPs in place, and something happens, so is that corporate vulnerable for any legal suit from the employee?
Yeah. Yes. So, again, the violation of an MHA order would amount to criminal liability. So, there is a possibility of an action against the employer for not implementing, enforcing the orders of Ministry of Home Affairs.
Great.
That is there. And even generally, as Chaitanya pointed out, that it's very important that they are able to look at their liability and then seek adequate cover, either in the form of insurance or complete compliance or whatever.
Great. Anand, you had a last question, right?
Sorry, I can't hear.
Anand, you had a question?
Yeah, so yes. What if employees agree to have pay cut and they write a confirmation that they are okay with the pay cut?
See, you are the man of the moment, right? You have the ultimate solution for this, right? So I completely agree with this, that see, agreement means there is an offer and there is an acceptance, right? So the agreement should be there, but it should be reverse in terms of who offers and who accepts, which means that the offer of the pay cut should be voluntary and it should come from the employees. And you as an employer should say, yes, okay, I appreciate your goodwill, and I'm happy to deduct the salary, and we can look at revising it as we go along.
Okay. Aruna,
But yeah.
And one important question which someone has asked: employees working from home, and in case of death, if employer's liability policy will trigger, death may not be due to COVID.
Yeah. So I will defer to what Chaitanya says, but my understanding is that it has to be in pursuit of an employment related function. So, like, any kind of a temporary or a permanent disablement or death should have happened during the course of your employment activity. Okay. Now, if for example, if you are supposed to be number crunching on a laptop, okay, and working from home, and then you go and you're going to take a comfort break, and your leg slips and you bang your head on the basin and you die. So it is highly unlikely that will be considered as a death due to an employment related injury. I mean, I will defer to what Chaitanya has to say.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the proximate cause will always be taken in terms of, how has the death been caused? Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely right.
So moving on, are we good to go? Are we good to wind up, Satyan, Anand?
If we have time, we have one important question which says, I have heard that some employers have withdrawn offer of employment. Is this legal? So definitely it is not legal.
So there is a slight difference there. It would depend upon how the offer of employment is worded. Okay, because an offer is not a contract of employment. So unless and until the offer is accepted and the acceptance of offer is communicated to the offerer, the contract does not become binding. And what we as lawyers advise is that you generally draft the offer letter in such a way that it clearly says that that this offer is the employment. It is not an employment contract. The offer is conditional upon reference checks, other checks, etc., etc. And your employment will only commence once you have accepted this, communicated the acceptance, reference checks are gone, and the first day when you turn up for your employment. Okay.
Great.
So we make it, because in India, there is a possibility that the person who's accepted the offer may not eventually turn up.
Got it. So let's call it a wrap right now, because we will answer all these questions in a FAQ manner. Because it's a paucity of time, everybody has their other things. That maybe somebody's calendar is blocked for 8:30 session or something, and Satyan also you may have, and Anand you may also have for the call. At this note, thank you very much for coming on this call. But I would like to invite our chairman, Shri Atul Boda, to say a few words and convey the vote of thanks. Over to you, sir.
Audible enough?
Yes, sir.
Hi, good evening to all of you. I'm Atul Boda, Chairman of JB Boda Group. Together with all participants, I sincerely thank Mr. Satyendra Srivastava, Speaker of the Day, for all the valuable information he shared with us on employment sector coping with COVID. I also extend thanks to our panelist, Mr. Anand Kumar, for his willingness and involvement in today's event. I am humbled to see great response and the deliberation. We would indeed facilitate more such interactive sessions in future. Please do join us again tomorrow, 5th May 2020, to listen to our speaker, Mr. Vishal Gondal, giving insight on the topic, "You are the CEO of your health," and other speakers on how to be mentally well in this digital world. This will be important topic to know how to keep ourselves fit and feel good, because ultimately health is the wealth for all of us. Thank you so much once again to all the participants, and I'm thankful to all the speakers again, and have a good week ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
On this
Thank
note,
you.
thank you everyone. And we assure you the
Thank you.
recording of this video and the FAQs will be posted on the public platform, as well as it will get emailed to you as you receive the invite from our side. Thank you so much, and see you guys tomorrow. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.